Never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devils Advocates Radio Show, a Devilish Monday edition. How you doing, Fancy Brian? Did you have a good time at the party?
I had a great time at the party. That was actually
partied like rock stars.
I had a nice window of like 2 days of, or maybe a day and a half of feeling somewhat normal, and it fell directly during the party. It was pretty awesome.
That is awesome. I had a great time. And then the Packers clobbered the Bears. We still own you. Hey, everyone listening.
You in Chicago, but you know.
WCPT 820 AM, you know, got to talk like that.
I mean, you choose to. I'd like to say you choose to. It's more powerful that way.
We still own you. At least my football team does. But let's talk about what should be the lead. Scot Ross off the IR, appearing on the Devil's Advocates, 4:00. Scot Ross, a firebrand, a former Wisconsin elections ethics commissioner. And he resigned his position. Gave it up for Lent. Oh, yeah. I love that guy. He is a firebrand at Gemini, likes long walks on the beach.
And he's a wordsmith.
Oh, he is a wordsmith. So Scot Ross, been far too long. He joins us in hour 2. But the lead today, and I don't know how this is not splashed across the front of every paper in America. Coup. And we've got the PowerPoint. I mean, there's a PowerPoint presentation for a coup d'etat that's still going on to this very moment. It's still happening in our nation. But here's the important stuff. Here is the new news. Mark Meadows. And we've talked quite a bit, about Mark Meadows of late. He is the Chief's chief, the guy that wrote his own tell-all as he's, being subpoenaed to give testimony before the January 6th committee. Well, the Chief's chief at first was going to cooperate with the committee. And part of that cooperation, at least initially, was to give them some documents. And the documents he gave them are somewhat damning for Mark Meadows and the entire Trump administration, what remained of them on Election Day. Fancy.
So you're saying that he held other things back and this is what he chose to share with people?
As near as I can tell, this information is the veracity of this. They didn't even claim that this is the privileged stuff. The coup plan, the PowerPoint, they put that out there in the public domain. They gave it to the January 6th committee. So what are they hiding? That's what I want to know.
And again, I pointed out last week, most of their presentations are like a page and a half. This is like 20 some odd pages, which is
38.
For this administration, for anybody in that, a very long document compared to anything else in the Trump administration.
Someone did their homework on how to overturn democracy.
Really tried really hard.
So this should be a really big deal. At least I perceive this to be a really big deal. I'm going to start with CNN's reporting. Meadows said the National Guard would be ready, and this is a direct quote, to protect pro-Trump people before the Capitol insurrection. Well, why would he have to make those reassurances? Because, of course, they're stirring the pot and the plot. The plot thickens. But Mark Meadows knew there was trouble afoot, and he had to be reassuring to Republican allies, let's say, Congress people, senators on the Hill, that when the insurrection comes, we'll protect you, the pro-Trumpists. We'll protect you. But we're holding back the National Guard just to make sure you're safe. Here is some of the reporting at CNN. Former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows sent an email saying the National Guard would be present, and here's the quote, to protect pro-Trump people in the lead up to the U.S. Capitol insurrection, according to a new report released by the January 6th committee Sunday night. Now, why did they drop a 52-page comprehensive? Because they're moving forward with contempt of Congress against Mark Meadows. As CNN reports, it was just one of several new details in the report about Meadows' actions before and during January 6th, as well as his role in attempting to overturn the 2020 election. The report is a key component for the committee to send a referral for charges of criminal contempt of Congress to the Justice Department. Do so already with alacrity. The panel informed Meadows last week it had no choice but to advance criminal contempt proceedings against him, given that he had decided to no longer cooperate with the investigation. Yeah, but what about his lawsuit? The panel will meet Monday, that's today, to formally advance the report to the full House vote, to the full floor for a House vote as soon as later this week. The vote by the full House is the last step before sending the referral to the Department of Justice. The report is a key component for the committee to send a referral for charges of criminal contempt to the Justice Department. That's a little redundant there, CNN. The panel will meet Monday, blah, blah, blah. Meadows' lawyer asked the panel Monday to reconsider its plans. In a letter to the committee, Meadows' attorney, George Terwilliger III, if you got a Esquire, the third guy, it's at least $450, $500 an hour.
That guy had to be made fun of it growing up.
Terwilliger III. I bet they call him Trey.
Terwilly.
Oh, I bet they call him a lot of things. Probably rich these days. Said the contemplated referral would be contrary to law because his client is a senior official who made a good faith invocation of executive privilege and testimonial immunity. Again, a quote, a referral of a senior presidential aide would be unwise because it would do greater damage to the institution of the presidency. Don't you know? As restraint in the application of the statute over time attest, Terwilliger wrote, the third. Terwilliger asked Meadows, said that Meadows' choice to decline a deposition in an attempt to comply with his legal obligations as a former Trump advisor. Again, a quote, history and the law teach that this attempt is not a crime. No, but what he's trying to hide are certainly criminal in nature. Terwilliger also suggests the committee should allow the civil lawsuit Meadows filed against the committee to play out before moving to contempt, because a ruling in that case would resolve the questions surrounding the privilege that are in dispute. So did you get all that? Well, I sued you, so why don't you allow my lawsuit, my civil lawsuit, to go forward? And then if I'm still criminally in contempt of Congress, then pursue the charges against me. Don't we all get to tell the prosecutor how we'd prefer they prosecute us?
Oh, I've tried. They just tell me to actually just not let me talk.
They usually inform me, shut up, you.
Pretty much.
Be quiet. The committee notes that in one email Meadows sent to an individual about January 6th, he said that the National Guard would be present to protect pro-Trump people and that many more would be available on standby. Well, now we know what happened to the National Guard that day. According to the report, the new documents come as Meadows' role is under renewed scrutiny. Is that what you would call it? Following his decision to cease cooperating with the committee last week. Committee Chairman Benny Thompson appeared to allude to this January 5th email about the National Guard on standby in a letter to Meadows' attorney. Thompson also referred to a November 7th, 2020, that's back towards the election time frame, email discussing the appointment of alternative slates of electors as part of a direct, here's his quote, Benny Thompson's quote. He's the chairman of this committee. The direct and collateral attack and a January 5th email that had a 38-page PowerPoint briefing titled, and here's the PowerPoint. We keep joking about it, but here was the title. Election fraud, foreign interference, and options for January 6th. Well, the election fraud alleged in the PowerPoint was from China and Venezuela. That's what they were alleging. Well, and there must be massive counterfeit ballots. So their plan was to effectively utilize the National Guard, because they're there for Trump safety, and to utilize the U.S. Marshal Service and to go, take up the electoral apparatus in each of our 50 states. And in the states they weren't satisfied with the electoral outcomes, let's call it Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, those swing states, Arizona, Georgia, those states. Well, you either don't accept the outcome of the election, you put them under suspicion, right? That was part of the DOJ. Remember those earlier reported letters? The DOJ was threatening states. You go tell everyone that your state is under suspicion. Think of Georgia and a phone call. There's a plan. There's a PowerPoint for a coup d'etat. Why is the Washington Post, the New York Times, why are they all not leading with this? I mean, across the front page. This is a really big deal. Are we so jaded as a democracy that, news and confirmation of a coup d'etat, we just, another Monday at the office. Devil's advocates. We'll take your phone calls. Just another Monday at the radio show.
We've lost 1% of all of our seniors, and everybody's like, I'm tired of COVID. Not surprised.
844-967-2789. More Devils. It's just a Monday.
Sedition!
We've included a Venn diagram.
Did I get it?
Should I wait?
Is it safe?
It's okay to have questions about COVID-19 vaccines. Now get the facts. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when COVID-19 vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
63 Americans a day die by gun suicide. By storing our guns safely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo, we can give our loved ones a second chance at life. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Hi, Don from Wisco Home Goods here. Jeremy and I handcraft our 100% non-toxic candles from locally sourced materials in our Madison, Wisconsin facility. Wisco Home Goods candles come in a variety of unique blends and scents that you're sure to love. Add a little warmth to your home as the days get colder with one of our Midnight Cypress or Up North candles. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing candles and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Occupy didn't start on Wall Street. It started on our street. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a Devilish Monday. Just a plain old Monday when we learn that the chief's chief, the former chief of staff to the president of the United States, although he is not cooperating with the January 6th committee, they laid out what I would call like a 52-page indictment of what they would ask him, what they want to get him on the record on. And much of the information that he provided to this committee in written form. And I have to ask myself, why would you do that? Because it's pretty damning. I mean, if you're gonna stonewall the committee, stonewall the committee. Don't release the 38-page coup d'etat PowerPoint. That would be my advice. But what do I know? I'm not a lawyer.
If that's the one thing that you chose to give out, what are you keeping back?
Well, no kidding. No kidding. Well, here is what we also know, according to the reporting and the report from the January 6th committee. And I can't wait till we get a more public accounting. But here's what we know from this 52-page filing. Meadows, according to the report, received text messages and emails regarding apparent efforts to encourage Republican legislators in certain states, think Wisconsin, think Michigan, think Arizona, think Georgia, to send alternative slates of electors to Congress, a plan which one member of Congress acknowledged was highly controversial. You think? And to which Mr. Meadows responded, I love it. Kind of like Don Jr. with the meeting with the Russians. I love it. Let's put it on the books. Here's a quote. Mr. Meadows responded to a similar message by saying, we are. And another such message by saying, yes, have a team on it. Additionally, the committee notes that Meadows exchanged text messages with and provided guidance to an organizer of the January 6th rally at the Ellipse after the organizer told him, and here was that text, things have gotten crazy and I desperately need some direction. So you wonder, was there coordination between the organizers of the event and the White House? Well, Trump's chief of staff was part of the White House, I think, right? And there's a little communication going on in real time, during the insurrection. A little bit more. If Meadows was still cooperating, the committee also said it would inquire about a text exchange with a media personality. Wonder if that's Hannity. I'm just wondering. Who would encourage the presidential statement asking people to, quote, peacefully leave the Capitol, as well as a text sent to by one of the president's family members indicating that Mr. Meadows is, quote, pushing hard, end quote, for a statement from the President Trump to, quote, condemn this crap, although he used, the FCC non-compliant word, happening at the Capitol, to end this crap happening at the Capitol. The committee also has previously sought communications between Meadows and certain rally organizers as the panel remains focused on identifying any level of coordination with the Trump White House. There's a lot of it. The PowerPoint kind of lays it out. The report also goes on to note that Meadows was directly involved in efforts to overturn the election results in key swing states. Trump lost and helped push unfounded claims about voter fraud. Here's another quote. Mr. Meadows participated in meetings and calls during which the participants reportedly discussed the need to fight, air quotes, back against mounting evidence of purported voter fraud after courts had considered and overwhelmingly rejected Trump campaign claims of voter fraud and other election irregularities. So they had already denied what eventually became 60 claims, non-meritorious lawsuits, yet Meadows was still having the meetings, and they needed a plan to fight harder. He participated in one such meeting in the Oval Office. Again, this is from the committee's report. He participated in one such meeting in the Oval Office with Mr. Trump and members, and I get kind of fired up here, people, members of Congress. And I don't think that means Democrats, which he publicly tweeted about from his personal Twitter account shortly after. So Meadows was there, Trump was there, and obviously Republican members of Congress were there. He participated in another such call just days before the January 6th attack with Mr. Trump, members of Congress, attorneys for the Trump re-election campaign, and some 300 state and local officials to discuss the goal of overturning certain states' electoral college results on January 6, 2021. That's the conspiracy to commit an insurrection, a coup d'etat. That's currently being reported by the January 6th committee as they seek to hold him in contempt of Congress. In response to the panel's push for criminal contempt proceedings, Meadows filed a lawsuit, a meritless lawsuit. But all he's trying to do is, kill time until Republicans can win back the House and they can sweep it under the rug. Meadows alleges these subpoenas are overly broad and unduly burdensome, while claiming that the committee lacks lawful authority to seek and obtain the information requested. Still, prior to Meadows' decision to halt cooperation with the committee, he had turned over 6,000 pages worth of documents, 38 of which are very damning. That includes information from his personal email account and personal cell phone that are relevant to the committee's investigation. And, I did see it reported over the weekend. You know why this was not successful? You know why they didn't pull off the coup d'etat? According to Chris Christie. You know who Chris Christie is? Because he said this was a top-down plan. And he said the reason it didn't work is because Trump was down to the C team. Because the best and brightest didn't stick around in DC because he didn't have the right people to execute the plan. That's why it didn't work. That's according to Chris Christie.
I love that he's pointing out that the plan would have worked if he had the right people, not, hey, maybe you shouldn't try and overthrow the government.
Here's a direct quote from Chris Christie. I found this at the Hill. So the C team players get in there and they tell the boss what he wants to hear, though. We're putting people on the outside who were telling him this is over and you need to concede. He didn't want to hear that. Again, this is Christie's quote. Understand, Trump has still never conceded, right? He still never conceded. A little bit more. Chris Christie, the source of this, according to thehill.com. Let's not kid ourselves. This was driven from the top process executed by C team players. And that's why it looks like a Keystone Cops operation, because it was. Because Trump never did hire the best and the brightest. He claimed to, but what he really had were loyalists. He had loyalists. And they screwed up a coup. They tried real hard, but they screwed it up. But with a little more competence and a little more time and planning, what do you think they'll do in 2024? When Donald Trump does not win re-election, or whatever you call it, when you lose a term, then come back and run again, he's still going to claim it was rigged. He's still going to claim it was stolen. Only we're going to have what? State electors from states like the state of Wisconsin, where I live. I mean, the witch hunt's on right now. I'll tell you all about it in the next hour, but come back. We'll talk about other big breaking news of the weekend. Chris Wallace out at Fox News. I don't know if I can go on Sunday.
This is a conspiracy. That's what this is. One big damn conspiracy. And everyone's in on it.
Are you talking to me?
Hear history as it happens, only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Pat Slattery here of Slattery's Automotive Service. Winter's coming, and that means now's the time for you to start thinking about snow tires. Travel winter roads with ease on Hakkapeliitta snow tires. Hakkapeliitta is the top-of-the-line snow tire, made in Finland and eco-friendly. If it's snowing, they'll get you there. Give me a call at 608-848-6123 to get yours set. Slattery's Automotive Service, your trusted choice for local service and repairs for all your automotive needs.
Hey, I'm here from Knuckleheads. Have you seen our new location yet? Come on down to 520 State Street for all your CBD needs. We have a huge selection of gummies, oils, and a variety of other CBD products. We also have a gigantic walk-in humidor. The knowledgeable staff at Knuckleheads will work with you to find exactly what you need. Mention Devil Radio at checkout to get 15% off your next order. Knuckleheads, now at 520 State Street. We'll see you there.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished lower. The Dow down 320 points. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear says at least 74 people have died from severe tornadoes that moved through the state.
109 Kentuckians now unaccounted for, but as I look at this broken down by county, it's way more people unaccounted for than this.
At least 14 people were killed in 4 other states. The Supreme Court refused to halt a vaccine requirement for healthcare workers in New York that does not offer an exemption for religious reasons. An indoor mask mandate takes effect starting today in New York. Judy Wilson has no problem with it.
I really think that people should wear them because otherwise, how are we going to get rid of this COVID?
The NBA postponed the Chicago Bulls' next 2 games. 10 players are in the league's health and safety protocols. The NHL postponed the Calgary Flames' next 3 games. 6 players are in protocol. I'm Ed Donahue.
In times of fear, World Vision is there for the most vulnerable. For the last 70 years, we've been standing with kids and families through natural disasters, war, and disease, delivering life-saving aid and helping rebuild lives. And with every act of courage, faith, and love, we do more than just stop the spread of fear. We replace it with hope. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Did you know Prilosec OTC can stop frequent heartburn before it begins?
Yep, I said before. Block heartburn at the source by taking the Prilosec OTC 2-week challenge. With just one pill a day, you get 24-hour heartburn relief. That's all day. Start the 2-week challenge today at prilosecotc.com and live heartburn-free. Just one pill a day, 24 hours, zero heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. According to the Legislative Fiscal Bureau, Wisconsin is set to receive nearly $143 million as the first installment to rebuild the state's water infrastructure as a part of the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was signed by President Joe Biden last month. The EPA is set to provide criteria for how Wisconsin can prioritize the initial $143 million in early 2022. Over the next 5 years, the Fiscal Bureau projects the state will also receive $347 million in clean water grants, $522 million to address safe drinking water, $95 million to address forever chemicals, and $225 million for lead pipe replacement. 2 Madison area labs have received a $14 million prize from the National Institute for Health for the lab's work in creating a more rapid, mobile COVID-19 testing method. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Want to acknowledge the invitation I received, and I took him up on it. My pal Joan Esposito, WCPT 820 AM. We play out there at 6 o'clock. But Joan asked me to join her on our big show, on her big show, more accurately, during your big show, Fancy Brian. Dueling Tangents plays right here on Devil Radio. So I was your competition today in progressive talk land. But I was also invited to go on the Foxy News show this Sunday. Apparently sometime between approximately 11 and noon Central Time. Don't know when yet. I'll lock you down when I know more. But the last time I got invited on Fox News, which was back in like June of this year, I told him, I was unfamiliar with the host because after Chris Wallace, I kind of turn off the channel for the day. He's pretty much the last Fox News product I'll watch. And they all giggled at that time. Oh, no, it's not just Chris Wallace. We got many fine news products. And I'm thinking, name 2. Well, now you can't even name 1. Because Chris Wallace this weekend bid adieu to the Foxy News. In a strange sort of way, this is not good news. But let's play the sound. Chris Wallace, his final goodbye. This is pretty quick and pretty unexpected. Played for the people. Cut 1.
Finally, a personal note. After 18 years, this is my final Fox News Sunday.
What?
It is the last time, and I say this with real sadness, we will meet like this. 18 years ago, the bosses here at Fox promised me they would never interfere with a guest I booked or a question I asked, and they kept that promise. I have been free to report to the best of my ability, to cover the stories I think are important, to hold our country's leaders to account. It's been a great ride. We've covered 5 presidential elections, interviewed every president since George H.W. Bush, traveled the world sitting down with France's Emmanuel Macron and Russia's Vladimir Putin. And I've gotten to spend Sunday mornings with you. It may sound corny, but I feel we've built a community here. There's a lot you can do on Sunday mornings. The fact you've chosen to spend this hour with us is something I cherish. But after 18 years, I have decided to leave Fox. I want to try something new, to go beyond politics to all the things I'm interested in. I'm ready for a new adventure, and I hope you'll check it out. And so, for the last time, dear friends, that's it for today. Have a great week, and I hope you'll keep watching Fox News Sunday.
But I won't, because there'll be no Chris Wallace. He's gone. And I don't see this as good news for any of us, although it will diminish Fox News. They're already greatly diminished. I mean, diminished as a news gathering agency, as a source of credible information. They were greatly diminished And I don't even know who you're going to give that job to. You don't do tryouts on Sunday mornings. I mean, Brett Baer, you're going to pull him off the night shift, put him on Sunday mornings? Because what other credentialed news people does Fox have left? I mean, you're pretty much done with Chris Wallace. So here's the point. That's the last bastion of truth and facts on Fox News. It has gone full Tucker Carlson. It is completely an opinion network at this point. And, the fact that I'm supposed to go on the very first Fox News Sunday without Chris Wallace in 18 years.
What about Fox Business? Isn't Fox Business really, really
Come on, they got
businessy?
Maria Bartiromo.
Oh,
man.
that's right.
She's gone full Trumpster. She drank the Kool-Aid. She used to be on CNBC, and I never really thought of her as being overly political. Maybe big business, as they all are on the big financial programs. But she got the Foxy Business News job, Maria Bartiromo specifically, and she drank the Kool-Aid. Laura Logan used to be on 60 Minutes. She drank the Kool-Aid. I mean, there's no one really with any veracity left on Fox as of now, because apparently that was Wallace's last appearance on Fox.
But could you tell us why you hate America?
Well, I don't hate America.
In hating America, do you hate America a lot or really a lot?
Well, you call me. You tell me if you think I hate America or hate it a lot at 844-967-2789. But I got to tell you, I went on Jones' show and I led to our friends in Chicago. I still own you. I've owned you all my life. I continue to own you. The Aaron Rodgers, the football thing, and obviously the Packers beat the Bears, as we all knew they would. And
speaking as a resident of Chicago for at least a decade or more, don't discount the ability for the Chicago Bears to self-own. They will own themselves, and maybe Aaron Rodgers picked them up and just said, "Oh, this is mine now." But they have already self-owned to the point where no matter what you do, they're going to figure out a way to lose.
Well, here's my point. I'm not above trash talking, even on a friendly interview like with Joan Esposito on WCPT. What do you think I'm going to do on Fox News Sunday?
Well, that's the
thing. I'm going to rub a little salt in that wound. Hey, where's Chris Wallace?
Oh, that'd be awesome. but generally, you're more polite with the people that are you're not. It takes a really good friend to insult me, is what I'm saying. Like a really good friend is the one that tells me,
because
wow,
they know where it hurts.
Well, they know where it hurts, but they can also do it in such a way that I'll appreciate it more than get offended.
So will I be a friend of Fox News? It'll be my third appearance. We used to designate people friends of the Devil's Advocates on their second or third appearance. Hell, even Speaker Robin Foss, due to numerical number of appearances, was designated friend of the Devil's Advocates, as was
we should send them
Ron
a shirt.
Johnson.
We should send them we should send them shirts.
Put you in the Hall of Fame.
Put them on.
I'll make you famous.
Give them shirts.
Wanted, Boss Foss.
Give them starter jackets.
844-967-2789. So do you see this one coming? And understand, Brian Williams also leaving MSNBC. So it's not like, big time hosts never leave. But you would never know it. Like I went on the Fox News site today. They're crapping on Chris Cuomo over on CNN, like CNN in disarray. They've lost their primetime host. Not a single word about Chris Wallace making an announcement the day prior on Fox News, the only credentialed news person. I mean, Wallace was the commentator for the Trump Biden debate, if you'll recall.
Yeah.
Not for the first or the last time. Well, perhaps for the last time, at least over at Foxy News.
Didn't he go over to CNN?
That is the thing that's got to sting the most. He's going to CNN Plus, a new streaming service. And you might say, what's CNN Plus? Well, that's hence the hire of Chris Wallace to capture your curiosity and perhaps, your streaming subscription in the new year. So like Peacock and Paramount and Hulu and all these different streaming services, I don't know if it's pay service, but CNN's dropping it in the new year. And, their news of Chris Cuomo, except over on Fox News, where it's the lead, literally top of the Fox News digital page right now. Chris Cuomo, did you see he's leaving CNN? Yeah, who'd they get to replace him? Oh, yeah, your boy, Chris Wallace.
It's
one
gonna
Chris
be a
for
Chris
another.
Either way.
One Chris for another. So, anyways, I didn't know quite how to take that news, but don't put it beyond me to talk a little trash, cast a little shade on Fox News. On Fox News, it's just a thought. That's my plan. I may modify the plan. I occasionally, call it audible, but so far that's the plan. 844-967-2789. We'll get to the phones in just a minute. Be patient. I'm going to turn my attention in just a minute to the ongoing coup. I had to take a breath, had to diverge and talk about, right-wing media outlets like Fox News losing their only news commentator, which was Chris Wallace, diminishing them as a news outlet, but they were greatly diminished anyways. So the last voice of reason that was at Fox News is gone.
So the dirt filling the hole has left.
There is nothing left but pretty airhead blondes and Ducey and Kilmeade. I mean, man, they are the A team over there. I would put it to you this way, Fancy Brian, the Fox News team would be incapable of pulling off a successful coup d'etat, but they'd be willing to try.
And they sure would cover it. In fact, they'd probably cover it with live cameras and everything, giving away the position of everybody that was involved.
Some people say that Brett Baer left Fox News. Brett Baer. Who's the other guy that left recently? He's now going to be on a new NBC platform. Shepard Smith. Shepard left because of a public fight with Tucker Carlson. And Chris Wallace reportedly was one of the newsy sorts that didn't like the fake documentary, the false flag documentary that Tucker Carlson made for Fox's streaming product that said effectively January 6th, bunch of Antifa. Yeah. Well, some of the news division people, think Brent Hume and Brett Baer and Chris Wallace. They pushed back a little bit. They didn't like to be associated with fantasy propaganda because that's effectively what it is.
Again, did you see where you work?
Well, sometimes workplaces evolve around us. Things change. People change. Philosophies change. Ownership didn't change, but now it's the kids in charge. And they like sort of a opinion driven. I mean, Tucker, relative to cable news, is killing it. It's getting great ratings. But somebody I saw pointed out very recently, actually an article that said, why do we need cable news? And here's why. The combined viewership of cable news during the evening hours, something like 5 million. That's Fox, CNN, MSNBC combined.
How much of that is just lobbies and waiting areas across the United States?
Turn on the Fox News.
All of it.
Every truck stop in America.
Every dealership has it on.
But you realize the big three, and I'm not talking about GMC and Chrysler, but the big three networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, their nightly viewership, like 4 times as great as the cumulative of all of cable news, over 20 million an evening on the big three. So why is there a Fox News?
There's some really, I'll tell you this from a being on TV type of point of view. There is a really weird way of, like, it used to be, okay, this is, everything was going through one media. It was one big market media that went through the big networks or maybe the cable networks. And there was a media stream, and you can deal with contracts for the big media, and you can deal with contracts for cable media. And even when the internet started coming up, there was little special contracts there. But now you have, everything has their own streaming. So it's cross platforms. Everything goes back and forth, and you can't necessarily tell specifically how everything works. You kind of have to do a blanket of everything. And the way that I'm looking at things, the way that I see reading the tea leaves in reverse, it really seems that the people who are in control or in power don't necessarily understand how the systems that have evolved around them continue to work now, or they're trying to evolve mid-system, because it's happened so fast and over the last 5 years even.
Do you watch Succession?
No, but I've been told a lot about it.
ATN is sort of a Foxy News, and there's a Rupert Murdoch sort of character, the patriarch, and the kids, and one's a daughter, and then there's 2 sons, and then there's a son by a prior marriage. And he pointed out last night on the season finale of Succession, apparently this is about billionaires and the mega rich, and they're all desperately sad, seemingly.
Yeah.
At least in this show.
Because you can't trust any relationship you have.
Well, and the father at the end, and I don't mean to be a spoiler if you're saving it, earmuffs for just a minute. But at the end, the father screws all the children. Season finale. And he said, I do it because I win. Like, I can't trust any of you kids, but I am a winner. And that's sort of Rupert Murdoch. And that's Fox News. They win at the ratings. They win making money. America, democracy, and even Chris Wallace. They're all the losers. But you're always a winner when you listen to the Devil's Advocates radio show. When you play a part, that's always appreciated as well. 844-967-2789. Just plain old Devilish Monday Coup d'etat edition.
When you are not a guest, don't pat yourself on the back, you might break your spine. Oh, nice guys finish last. When you are not a guest, don't pat yourself on the back, you might break your spine.
You can't fire me, I quit. Seems I don't fit in.
We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
If doctors, nurses, and grocery store clerks can wear a mask for 10 or 12-hour shifts, you can wear a mask for an hour or less when you go to the store. Do your part. Mask up, America.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Spruce up your home with non-toxic vegan candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents that make a perfect holiday gift. Plus, at Wisco Home Goods, we believe in giving back. With our Do Good, Smell Good campaign, a portion of the proceeds go to local charities. So support a Midwestern company that supports our local communities. Order now at wiscohomegoods.com.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak. Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Bank Strong, and the Ad Council.
I'm Kirk Bankstad, and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company in deep red northern Wisconsin, and I have a super PAC. We make good trouble by buying billboards, radio ads, and calls to voters in northern Wisconsin. We target federal and state elections, think Ron Johnson and Tom Tiffany, and concentrate on a fair redistricting process. Give a donation now if you're able at the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com Super PAC tab. Help us make the politics of the Northwoods as clean as our lakes and streams. That's the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com Super PAC tab.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Monday edition. Phone lines, they're open for your calls, 844-967-2789. And I got an update about former Foxy News host Bill O'Reilly and Donald Trump. They had a little stadium event in Orlando.
Oh, I was worried about that.
Sparsely attended is word out of the Orlando Sentinel Sun-Times or whatever.
Could I hear a cough? Could hear a cough in the
pen
background.
drop? An autocrat speaking, 844-967-2789. I'll tell you about that. But first, the phones. And my pal Pizza the Box. How you doing, Michael?
Yeah, man, when I saw Trump and O'Reilly, I was like, they're on a tour or what? The sexual assault tour? Both of them. Seriously, man, you should mention that on Fox. Yeah, I want to get on there someday. I'm going to have to figure out how to get under their skin. But when it comes to the media nowadays, CNN, I mean, that's what I watch maybe a couple hours early in the morning. just to get the first fresh news. I haven't turned on MSNBC. I've never really turned on Fox, not even I just can't stand listening to them. But it's just corporate Nazi news for me now. I mean, everybody that used to be far right is, either on MSNBC or CNN. Give me a break. That's how far right we've gone.
Well, they're the palatable anti-Trump sort of Republicans, the Nicole Wallaces. I hate to say I like Nicole Wallace, but she is really a Republican. Worked for McCain's campaign and worked for W as a speechwriter. And she's got a 2-hour show on MSNBC every night. Hardly a leftist pizza box.
No, man, I told you I don't watch MSNBC. And let's not forget that, Rachel Maddow, who beats down on progressives and mocked Bernie Sanders back in 2015, she re-upped for $30 million a year. It's starting to get like, the man of the year thing, the guy that made the most money during COVID. That's man of the year. I feel sick today.
You mean Elon Musk, the libertarian? Right. He'll go galt if you try to tax him. You know what I think is crazy about Elon Musk and Tesla? My understanding, he started that corporation in like 2005. His family staked him to some money. So it's not like he went and, shined shoes to raise the startup capital for that. He was, someone invested with him from day one. But the guy didn't make any money at his corporation in the first 14 years. Yet he's become the richest man in the world. They're 1 year profitable as a corporation.
He's a thief, man. That's how you get to be the richest man in the world nowadays.
Well, he was certainly subsidized by taxpayer dollars, by research dollars, by a number of federal and state dollars, I suspect. Nobody does it alone, pizza box. I can't run a radio station alone. I make it look easy, but Brian does all the work around here. And Luke and all the other guys. That. There's nobody does it alone. Unless you're
about it, without an engineer, I wouldn't be able to do anything. But, the funniest thing about Elon Musk is, yes, he used all that money from other people, but he doesn't want to pay taxes. Nice guy. Oh, yes, Bernie Sanders still alive, you bastard.
Well, I think Time Magazine, in their description of him, did call him a cad. Talking about Elon Musk. Pizza Box, appreciate you, my friend. Here's a little headline you might appreciate. This one originally published at the Huffington Post. Donald Trump Bill O'Reilly event reportedly fizzles in Florida. It's that high humidity. Trump doesn't do well in the humidity. That's why he often wears the MAGA hat. There were so many empty seats at the Donald Trump Florida event on Saturday that organizers had to shut down the upper level of the arena in Sunrise, Florida. The Sun Sentinel reported Trump fans sitting in the nosebleed section of the Florida Live Arena were told they're being upgraded to the lower levels, according to the newspaper. Many tickets remained unsold before the event. Now, they were selling these tickets for like $100 a pop for the Bill O'Reilly Donald Trump.
For the everyman that is the Donald Trump fan. That's the prices for them.
Well, Trump, and I've admitted this readily. I went to Des Moines, Iowa. Like 40,000 showed up on a Saturday night in Des Moines. And that was, running head to head against an Iowa football game in Kinnick Stadium an hour down the road. So that was impressive, but that was free.
Oh,
and when you got to get out to your Benjamin, you got to lay down $100. Well, only the suckers pay to see Trump. And apparently there weren't that many suckers in Sunrise, Florida this weekend.
It's almost like when push comes to shove, Trump fails at everything he has to put up for.
Trump appeared with former Foxy News personality Bill O'Reilly, who was bounced from the network after accusations of sexual harassment. Never seemed to bother the former president's term. One supposed audience member in a tweet that was later deleted complained that the duo was an hour late and there were a lot of empty seats. An hour late, that sounds about right. I've been to a few Trump rallies, got to wait for the crowd, the buzz to build.
Well, when you have contempt for the people you're about to go and see, you don't care about what time we go on.
Particularly embarrassing, according to this reporting, was Trump's boast in a statement posted on his aide's Twitter account, because he's been deplatformed. See you in Sunrise, Florida in a little while. Big crowds! ! He signed it President Trump. He always does. little bit more here. Trump predictably had nothing pleasant to say about President Joe Biden in his sit down on stage with O'Reilly, but he did call Barack Obama sharp and smart. Well, unlike yourself, sir. He also admitted that the world leaders he got along best with were tyrants. For whatever reason, I got along great with them.
That's a good thing to point out.
Orban, Putin, the tyrants. Who was the guy that probably had Khashoggi killed MBS, the Saudi crown prince?
Oh, yeah.
Liked him quite a bit as well, it seems.
Real good guy.
The fizzled event was similar to Trump's rally that flopped in Tulsa, Oklahoma during the presidential campaign last year, when a mass of empty seats were the star of the show. People on TikTok boasted that they had made fake reservations for the Tulsa rally, as Trump organizers boasted that more than 1 million people had signed up to attend. 1 million people. That'd be bigger than his inauguration crowd.
All those people that went to attend at Tulsa also went to go and apply for Kellogg's jobs.
Yeah. You know what they're calling this road tour, this world tour? The history tour.
Oh, good.
That sounds very dynamic.
Really exciting.
Pay $100 to go see the history tour. Like, these guys are history. Bill O'Reilly, Donald Trump, just bringing up big sales.
Just as popular as the Pittsburgh Pirates.
In the Orlando area. Not a big crowd. Apparently, they're cheap down there.
Maybe they were holding out for another Tampa Bay, championship or something. I don't know.
Got to buy some Tampa Bay NFC runner-up wear because the Packers.
Maybe there was a DeSantis event down the road.
Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. Hour 2 is next. Scot Ross coming back from the injured reserve list. We pulled him out of retirement. He's back on the show. It's been too long. He's a firebrand. You're going to want to stick around. More Devil's Advocates.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Don't know what you did.
Wisconsin. You know that Drew Holiday and Brooke Lopez are champions on the court, but did you know they're also champions for our community?
Hey, Wisconsinites, Drew Holiday here.
And Brooke Lopez here.
I love being a champion.
And today I'm asking you to be a champion citizen.
Defend your right to vote and exercise your freedom to vote.
It's more important now than ever because politicians are trying to restrict our freedom to vote.
They're worried about our power, so they want to take it away.
Don't let them do that.
You've got to block that shot.
Paid for by the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. These are tough times in Kentucky, especially in Mayfield, which was hit very hard by a devastating tornado. Kathy Stewart Onan is the mayor.
Our community has suffered such a tremendous loss of life, a way to make a living, of homes, and we cry with them. We are here to support them.
Governor Andy Beshear says the number of dead from tornadoes in Kentucky is up to 74.
109 Kentuckians now unaccounted for, but as I look at this broken down by county, it's way more people unaccounted for than this.
President Biden says he will travel to Kentucky Wednesday.
We're going to get this done. We're going to be there as long as it takes to help.
At least 14 people are dead in 4 other states from tornadoes. The Supreme Court refused to stop a coronavirus vaccine requirement for healthcare workers in New York that does not offer an exemption for religious reasons. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin appears to be on the verge of pleading guilty to violating George Floyd's civil rights. A federal docket entry shows a hearing has been scheduled Wednesday for Chauvin to change his current not guilty plea in the case. USA Gymnastics and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee have reached a $380 million settlement with hundreds of victims of sexual abuse. Rachel Denhollander, the first woman to detail sexual abuse at the hands of former USA team doctor Larry Nassar, says the lawsuit wasn't about the money, but the hope of effecting change within the organization. Navy prosecutors allege a sailor charged with setting a fire that destroyed the USS Bonhomme Richard last year was disgruntled after dropping out of Navy SEAL training, while his defense lawyer criticized the preliminary hearing as unfair. The ship burned for nearly 5 days and injured dozens aboard. The Dow finished down 320 points. This is AP News.
In times of fear, World Vision is there for the most vulnerable. For the last 70 years, we've been standing with kids and families through natural disasters, war, and disease, delivering life-saving aid and helping rebuild lives. And with every act of courage, faith, and love, we do more than just stop the spread of fear. We replace it with hope. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Did you know Prilosec OTC can stop frequent heartburn before it begins? Yep, I said before. Block heartburn at the source by taking the Prilosec OTC 2-week challenge. With just 1 pill a day, you get 24-hour heartburn relief. That's all day. Start the 2-week challenge today at prilosecotc.com and live heartburn-free. Just 1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
You know what? I'll tell you something. There's nothing better than a hot sausage, couple 2-3 cold beers, and Devil Radio on the box.
This is Chad Spate. Are you thinking about improving or expanding your home? At Chad's Design Build, we're committed to making your home comfortable, healthy, attractive, durable, and sustainable. In fact, those commitments spell our name. And we deliver these services with our outstanding team of professionals who will respect you and your home. Visit our website at chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more about how we are building a better world, one remodeled home at a time.
At Knuckleheads, our knowledgeable staff knows the ins and outs of CBD. Whether you're a veteran of cannabis like the Devil Radio team or a first-time customer, the Knuckleheads team has the information to answer all your CBD questions. Never heard of a tincture? We got you covered. Looking for something to address those achy joints? We got just the thing. Stop into our new location at 520 State Street and mention Double Radio to our knowledgeable staff to get 15% off your order today. Knuckleheads, your one-stop shop for CBD in Madison.
Hey, this is Rocker, and I'm back on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies on East Wash. I'm having a brand new cocktail you just have to try. It's called Divide and Concord. It features Rocker vodka along with Concord grape, thyme, St. Elizabeth's dram, and a touch of lemon lime. Ask for it by name, Divide and Concord at Salvatore's Tomato Pies. Find Rocker vodka and Rocker rye whiskey at Vic Pierce on Sherman Avenue. Please drink responsibly.
Here's how you get them. If they bring a beer, you bring an old-fashioned. If they bring cheese curds, you bring a casserole. That's how you make friends. That's the Wisconsin way. That's Devil Radio.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. Last week, the Madison City Attorney sent a letter to the Waukesha County Judge that former Supreme Court Justice Michael Gableman is attempting to use to lock up the mayors of Madison and Green Bay as a part of the Republican-authorized review of the state's 2020 election. In the letter, Attorney Michael Haas said the attempt to arrest Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway was unprofessional, an abuse of power, and done in bad faith. A hearing on the matter is scheduled for this Friday. According to the White House, First Lady Jill Biden and Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff will visit Milwaukee and Waukesha this week on Wednesday afternoon. Further details of the trip have yet to be announced. Forecast of sunshine throughout the day today with light winds.
Well, hello there, Scott.
Hey, what's happening?
Looking great, sir.
Yeah.
How are you? And I'm going to take off myself.
7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, Hour 2. And I got a fine guest zooming in right from the get-go. He is the bionic man. He is Scot Ross, back from the injured reserve list. Been far too long. Scott, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates.
Ahoy, hoy, Crudy. How you doing today?
And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and all that kind of stuff.
You as well.
Buddy, I understand you're recovering. You're recuperating. You'll be back to doing triathlons in no time.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, I was laid up for a little while, but I am back. I'm about 85%, which is better than I did in school. So I got nothing to complain about. That's for sure.
Excellent. Well, I brought you here and I invited you, sir, on the anniversary of one of Scott Walker's most embarrassing moments. Was it during the presidential campaign, or was he just a lowly Wisconsin state governor then? But the former gubernator, Scott Wanker, well, he had a message for all the Jewish people in Wisconsin. What was it, Scott? Do you recall?
Thank you again, and Molotov. Yeah, it was 2014. The story. Well, there was a story that was published. I had been looking through the when I was at One Wisconsin Now. I had been looking through the files of the John Doe documents, and I found this letter from Walker to attorney Franklin Gimbel. He was the attorney. I think in the end he was the attorney for Kelly Rindfleisch in the first John Doe. And I found this letter in there, and the letter was indeed signed. It was about the Jewish holidays, and it was signed, "Thank you again," in Molotov. And I pitched it to a member of the press and over at the Cap Times, and they ended up doing a story on it. And it was a great story. I mean, it was a whole bunch of stuff about how politicians celebrate the holidays and how sometimes they do it, appropriately, and then Scott Walker. And it was this day 7 years ago. I was laying in my bed watching TV, and I had the Colbert Report on when Stephen Colbert had his show on Comedy Central. And by God, they did an 8-minute segment on this article from the Cap Times. And it was so great because my mom who died about a year later, I called her and I said, "Oh my God, Mom, Stephen Colbert, you know who he is? He just did an 8-minute story on this thing that I found about Scott Walker, blah, 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 blah." And she's like, Scott, it's, because she's in Pittsburgh, which is an hour ahead of us. She's like, "It's late." And I DVR'd it. I'll watch it tomorrow, which is when I found out not only was my mom watched the Colbert Report, but she DVR'd it. So I was pretty impressed with that. But it was a hilarious segment. It still is available online if you want to watch it. But I don't think, I like to think, Scott Walker suffered a number of wounds that we inflicted upon him, at least at my time at One Wisconsin Now. But my favorite one of all time has to be the "Thank you again" in Molotov, because he looked like such a dope, in just such a perfect embodiment of what a dope that he was. And my hope is to live long enough that if he passes before that it will be Scott Walker, the former governor of Wisconsin, who said to a Jewish constituent, "Thank you again" in Molotov, died at 84.
Scott Ross, my fine co-devil for a bit. Scott, I wish I could miss the former governor of the state of Wisconsin, but he just won't go away. And he's a constant troll on social media. And somewhere along the line, I must have followed a page or a twit stream in his case. But he pops up constantly. I mean, and whether it's any sporting event he possibly attended, that team's game once in the past, I mean, it doesn't take much for him to self-aggrandize on social media. Scott, it's almost like he might be pondering running for something again.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Mike, I had to block him. I had to because I could not. I'm sorry, I thought I turned that up.
He called you on the rotary phone.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, quit it, buddy." But I had to unfollow. I tried to block him on Twitter because he was driving me to distraction. Because again, he's irrelevant at this point, right? He runs some, young, fascists for truth, whatever organization. He's grifting out of California. And I guess he's on the Newsmax station once in a while. But he was driving me to distraction because of these things, like you said, on Twitter. His presence is just so noxious. It's literally his Twitter stream is, I was, here's why I like here are the Packer things that I like, and then attacking black and brown men and women on Twitter. And if you could do a twofer, like attacking Kamala Harris is a big one for him, or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because they're both a person of color and a woman. So that's literally like what he spends his time doing. And so I kind of, I blocked him so I don't have to see his thing. So you're going to have to tell me that. But yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that I would think at some point he'll probably try and run for something again. I mean, remember, this is a guy who ran for state office twice before he could legally rent a car, but he does provide, every so often, like, I am amused, there's that thing going around where on the social media where the person said, unvaccinated and vaccinated persons can spread the disease. And I responded, yeah, Barack Obama and Scott Walker both ran for president. So, it doesn't matter.
Scot Ross, whenever I see Scott Walker post something, and I'm an early guy, like I'm one of the first to comment, I also always tag him wanker because that's what I think of him as, a wanker. But I should tag him with Foxconn. Do you think you would ever shut him up? How is Foxconn not like the horror story that we tell our kids and our grandkids? Because they're still paying for Foxconn. They will be for a generation, and there's no upside. And Republicans promised us all these well-paying jobs and this transformational thing. And, I'm not even sure if they're going to make anything at Foxconn. Last I heard, they were doing a salmon farm in Pleasant Prairie, man.
Wow.
How is that not on Scott Walker's gravestone? The wanker brought us Foxconn.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. And I would take it a step further. I mean, how in the hell can a single member of the state legislature who voted for that bill ever be taken serious again on economics? It's just absolutely, completely, and totally ridiculous. I mean, this is, it was a complete failure from top to bottom. The thing is, there were many of us who said, like, that was what was going to happen. We said, like, pouring out the largest the largest subsidy in American history for a foreign company, for a company like Foxconn that had a trail of lies, a trail of bad decisions. This was a company that actually had suicide nets at one of its plants because workers were treated so poorly that they were literally jumping to their deaths. And this is the business that Scott Walker got in bed with, not with like some extensive long contract, with basically a cocktail napkin on which this thing was decided. And I can still hear him saying, no jobs, no tax breaks. And that was just complete and total garbage because we've already spent $1 billion. $1 billion has already been spent on Foxconn for that big giant globe. I mean, you should put a ne'er-do-wells should put a big black line down the middle of that thing so it looks like an ass, because that would be the perfect memorial to Scott Walker. And again, like you say, this thing's going to cost us money for a long, long time. And not only that, it's a disincentive if good companies do try and relocate to the state and us wanting to invest in them. Because if a Democrat tries to do it, if Governor Evers tries to do it, Republicans are going to have to, probably going to have to watch it, but they'll probably try and say, oh, no, this is worse than Foxconn. And then they'll say, oh, wait, no, I didn't mean Foxconn. And then
let's talk about the big lie and the perpetration of this investigation. And they tagged Gableman, a former Supreme Court justice. You and I both know he's corrupt, but he's also a partisan, and he's also a guy who's out there really doing a witch hunt, sort of a McCarthy-esque witch hunt. And I think, he doesn't think he's going to throw the mayor of Madison in jail. Might be wishful thinking on his part. But what he is doing is he's discouraging good people from working on the Elections Commission or the Ethics Commission. I know you step back, probably not because of Gableman, but do I make a valid point? Isn't that what they're trying to do on some level, is basically push the good people that might have a little fight in them off these sort of committees?
Absolutely. And I mean, Steve Bannon has said they are investing in trying to get people onto these like small time election administration bodies all over the country in order to try and steal an election. It's very clear what's going on here. Robin Vos has been all over the place. I mean, let's not forget that Robin Vos, right before the Republican convention this year, was interviewed and said that Donald Trump lost the election in Wisconsin, and he lost it because he ran, 50,000 votes behind the total of the 8 Republicans who ran for the congressional seats here. And now he's saying, that the election was basically stolen. And we've already spent what, $700,000 on this. What I think Democrats need to do is, I see little ads on Facebook about Robin Vos. The Democrats need to get off their butts and start going into the districts of Robin Vos's vulnerable assembly people and start attacking them for this there, because Robin Vos will take all the heat you want. He's invulnerable in his district. They've got to get out there in the districts, in the media, on the radio, on programs like yours every day, and make sure they're penetrating and telling these people that it's your local representative who is wasting $700,000 for this big lie to try and steal an election. That's for sure.
Ross, we're completely out of time, but on that note, Gordon Hentz announces today, leader, the Democrat, he's stepping back on January 10th. It won't be Gordon leading the charge.
Yeah,
Scot Ross, maybe a guy like you, man, get healthy and get out there and speak the truth, my friend.
All right, you be good.
All right, man. Happy holidays. Thanks for coming. More Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
No, I'm going to stay for a while. How about that?
What would you say you do here?
Foxconn will help Wisconsin win the 21st century.
No, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
What do you think of these online reports that say you had a love child in college?
Wow, that's messed up.
Freedom
is dedication.
People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike and you didn't? I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, and he would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, Don from Wisco Home Goods here. Jeremy and I handcraft our 100% non-toxic candles from locally sourced materials in our Madison, Wisconsin facility. Wisco Home Goods candles come in a variety of unique blends and scents that you're sure to love. Add a little warmth to your home as the days get colder with one of our Midnight Cypress or Up North candles. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing candles and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Welcome back from the Monday 420 break. Thank you to our most recent guest. I've been missing that guy, Scot Ross.
I told you he was a wordsmith, man. Not that you didn't know that, but everybody else who's listening.
He crafts some words, I'd say. The only thing that holds him back is the FCC.
And that I think makes him
not decorum.
I think that makes him infinitely more creative because he's in a certain box and he knows what he can do.
Well, Scot Ross, thanks for coming around, helping me, share a little bit of the Walker bashing with the current audience. Gordon Hintz to step down as leader of the Assembly Democrats. This one broke right as you guys were going on the air today. Fancy Brian, the leader of the Assembly Democrats that's in Wisconsin, will step down in January, leaving the caucus top post during a legislative session while he mulls whether or not he's even going to run for re-election. Does this seem like good news to you, Democrats?
There's only so much you can push that boulder up the hill before it keeps rolling down. You have to keep pushing that boulder up the hill again and ramming your head against the wall. I mean, after a while, you kind of go and say, doesn't matter what I do, no matter what I say, it's just going to be the same old Republicanism anyway.
The Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, where our pal Batman works and does the God's work. I think they've got Sisyphus, right? He's the one that pushes the boulder up.
Oh, yeah.
I think that is literally the motto of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Yeah, that's appropriate. But I said this about Gordon Hintz when we talked about it on the show earlier, is he is the appropriate level of snark for a legislator. Like, he takes it seriously. He sends out, his messages and things, but he has the appropriate, like a nice soupçon of like snarky that's just perfect. And anybody who was listening earlier in the show, we've already heard from Gordon Hintz. I dropped him earlier.
We've included a Venn diagram.
So he's already been with us today.
Doing a little Walker bashing through soundbite. Here's what he said today. The quote from the outgoing Assembly Minority Leader. I have been humbled and honored to lead Assembly Democrats for the past 4+ years. But I want to have more time for my district and my family, which includes 2 children under the age of 5. That's pretty young. While Hintz is leaving caucus leadership, he has not yet decided whether he'll seek another term in the assembly. He said in the interview, well, hell, he doesn't even know what his district would look like yet. None of them do. I want to announce to give myself enough time to figure out running for re-election and, what my appropriate balance is, and to just be honest with myself. It's been a really hard year for everybody. It's about giving a little bit more certainty and predictability to my wife and my life. Well, don't go into radio, my friend. I think someone should run for a leader that knows they're going to be there, he said. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos said he and Hintz share a love for the state of Wisconsin and a desire to see growth and prosperity for all the people and make it such a great place. Serving in the leadership position demands a significant amount of time, and I respect his decision to focus on his family. Now, Voss doesn't have family. He's got a wife, like his third wife, right? She's a former state lawmaker, met her on the job, one must assume. Anyways, she's a lovely lady, Michelle. I wish him the best of luck and look forward to continuing to work with him in the assembly. Voss said in a statement, well, that's about as magnanimous as Voss ever gets. Hintz was elected by his colleagues as minority leader in 2017. And do you remember why Peter Barca kind of got heave-hoed? Well, between the Bucks Arena and the Foxconn deal. At the time, Assembly Democratic Caucus had diminished to historically low levels. Hintz said the only path back to the majority was to unite against Republican policies. In a statement Monday, Hintz said the caucus accomplished that goal. Well, I thought the goal was to win back the legislative majority, but here's what he said. We led the successful effort to hold Governor Walker accountable for the Foxconn debacle, check, unaccountable tax giveaways, check, and record debt borrowing to pay for our roads, leading to his defeat in 2018. Well, that and legalized marijuana referendums on a lot of ballots helped. Ask Scott Walker. He still blames marijuana. As Hintz said, we have upheld Governor Tony Evers' vetoes on every single attempt. We have continuously fought back against extreme efforts by Republicans to divide our state and to undermine our democracy. And in the last 2 election cycles, Assembly Democrats have picked up seats and returned every single incumbent despite the most gerrymandered maps in American history. Yeah, check. Hence, age 48 was first elected to the Assembly in 2006, in addition to holding the caucus's top leadership position. Hence, is a member of the Wisconsin Economic Development Corp and previously served on the Joint Finance Committee. So anyways, we like Gordon. State Republicans criticized Hintz in 2011 incidents during which he told former state rep Michelle Litchkins, "You're effing dead." Now, Litchkins went on to marry Robin Voss. That's the Michelle I referenced. During a debate over Walker's collective bargaining act known as Act 10, and for a citation he received at an Appleton massage parlor while he was unmarried, Hintz has repeatedly apologized and said he sought to live with intent and purpose since then. Here's a quote. Guy's retiring from leadership, and that's still what they're printing about him. "I have apologized and taken responsibility for my past actions. Even during this time, I never stopped doing my job," he said at the time. "I can't change the mistakes of my past, but I can learn from them going forward." Assistant Minority Leader Diane Hesselbein, Democrat from Cross Plains, said Hintz exemplifies the qualities of a leader that are not often displayed in legislative politics. No, we all like Hintz. My colleague has an unending sense of humor that can disarm even the staunchest ideological adversaries. I like him quite a bit. But I don't like to hear that he is retiring, stepping back from leadership. At minimum, one must think he's strongly considering not running for re-election. My senator, John Erpenbach, last week said he's not going to run for re-election. And Diane Hesselbein, who also serves in the same district in the Assembly, has shown every indication that she might want to move on and run for John's seat. That means the Assembly Minority Leader and the Assistant Caucus Leader would both be exiting the Assembly. Great news for Democrats. It's Monday edition. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. It gets better. There's better stories. I promise.
I got a joint here, man. I've been saving for a special occasion.
Mostly Maui Wowie, man.
Yeah?
But it's got some Labrador in it.
We've included a Venn diagram.
Ooh, I'm going to hit the pause button.
Cut through the bullshit. Get the information the deep state doesn't want you to know. Only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Wisconsin. You know that Drew Holiday and Brooke Lopez are champions on the court, but did you know they're also champions for our community?
Hey, Wisconsinites. Drew Holiday here.
And Brooke Lopez here.
I love being a champion.
And today I'm asking you to be a champion citizen.
Defend your right to vote and exercise your freedom to vote.
It's more important now than ever because politicians are trying to restrict our freedom to vote.
They're worried about our power, so they want to take it away.
Don't let them do that.
You've got to block that shot.
Paid for by the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
Quality CBD is your Madison cannabis experience destination. Different than the head shops, Quality CBD is gallery quality art, ambiance, and a Bella bar experience that's second to none. Enjoy kombucha in a Bella glass full of vaporized, legal Delta 8 cannabis. Slow down, relax, and enjoy the experience. Only at Quality CBD, 1222 Williamson Street. Come for the Quality CBD, stay for the experience. Quality CBD, 1222 Willie Street.
Horrendous destruction. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. In Mayfield, Kentucky.
Such a tremendous loss of life, a way to make a living of homes, and we cry with them. We are here to support them.
Mayor Kathy Stewart Onan says the town has been decimated with at least 8 dead at the local candle factory and 8 others still missing. Governor Andy Beshear says at least 74 people were killed in Kentucky by the rare December tornadoes that slammed his state and several others. The overall death toll is at least 88. President Biden will travel to Kentucky on Wednesday. A federal bankruptcy court in Indianapolis confirms a $380 million settlement between USA Gymnastics and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee and the hundreds of sexual abuse victims of former gymnastics team doctor Larry Nassar, ending one aspect of the largest sexual abuse scandal in the history of the U.S. Olympic movement. The fight over changing the sport's governing body has just begun. I'm Tim McGuire.
In times of fear, World Vision is there for the most vulnerable.
For the last 70 years, we've been standing with kids and families through natural disasters, war, and disease, delivering life-saving aid and helping rebuild lives. And with every act of courage, faith, and love, we do more than just stop the spread of fear. We replace it with hope. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Did you know Prilosec OTC can stop frequent heartburn before it begins? Yep, I said before. Block heartburn at the source by taking the Prilosec OTC 2-week challenge. With just one pill a day, you get 24-hour heartburn relief. That's all day. Start the 2-week challenge today at prilosecotc.com and live heartburn-free. Just one pill a day, 24 hours, zero heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. According to the Secretary of the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, more than 20,000 farmers across Wisconsin applied for COVID-19 relief funds during the month of November, roughly 5,000 more farmers than applied for similar funds this time last year. The farmers are set to receive grant funds through the Wisconsin Farm Support Program the Evers administration has created through utilizing American Rescue Plan funds. At the end of last week, Governor Tony Evers announced the state will be directing an additional $30 million through the DATCP to hunger relief across Wisconsin through partnerships with Hunger Task Force and Feeding Wisconsin. A new bipartisan proposal in the Wisconsin Assembly would give the University of Wisconsin system the ability to negotiate tuition reciprocity with the state of Minnesota. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the 4 o'clock happy hour. It rolls on the Monday edition. Got a little more Walker bashing and your phone calls as well. 844-967-2789. I'd like to lead this segment by saying, suck it, wanker. And your lapdog, too. And I mean you, MD Kittle. Matt Kittle from over at the McIver Institute. You know, they sued the governor, the current governor, Tony Evers. And their suit was all about access to the current governor because apparently McIver didn't get invited to all of Tony's press briefings. Well, neither do I. And often I don't attend, but occasionally I do. And last time I saw MD Kittle, he was in the press briefing. We were there literally at a press briefing. I think Evers had rolled out his budget or something.
Yeah, and the only reason why he was stopped from doing so is because he released information before it was supposed to be released in the first place.
Oh, he broke embargo?
Yeah.
I might have inadvertently done that to Tony one time.
Yeah, and if you did that, I'd say, okay, I can understand why you might, like, you violated the trust of the governor. Okay. I mean, well, if you're not supposed to do that, then don't do it. You get punished.
The lawsuit was enjoined by the former governor. The wanker wrote amicus briefs and got.
Oh, he joined in on this.
He joined in on this lawsuit.
He signed his name on this
to try and force the current governor to allow sort of open access to any quote unquote qualified journalist for the current governor. But let's not forget the former governor blocked access to a lot of his press events. And in fact, had protesters arrested at the Wisconsin State Capitol in a very fascistic way.
He's going to be in line for double precedent. He's going to get smacked down by his own precedent. The man is doing everything but putting a stick in the front spoke of his own tire.
You mean Scott Walker, the troll in chief?
Yes, he's trolling himself.
That's better than elected office. Pays better. The U.S. Supreme Court has declined to take up an appeal in a lawsuit brought by the Madison-based conservative think tank against Governor Tony Evers for his decision to keep writers from attending some press briefings. The John K. McIver Institute for Distorting Public Policy earlier this year appealed a unanimous federal court appeals court ruling upholding the Evers policy. So they're appealing a unanimous ruling. I mean, Scott Walker would do stuff like that constantly. The justices denied their request to take up the appeal after meeting on Friday, according to the court's order list released Monday. So they said, no, the U.S. Supreme said, we don't want your argument. The move keeps in place Evers' policy of at times hosting invite-only press briefings for some, but not all reporters, researchers, and writers who cover state government, some of which are tied to partisan organizations like Kittle. I mean, the guy wrote over 400 John Doe articles giving cover fire to Scott Walker. As this case ends, two things remain clear. The McIver News Service is run by award-winning journalist. That's funny. The politicians should not censor their news coverage by handpicking who covers them. Daniel Sir, managing attorney. Well, you lost, Daniel, so shut up. In a brief filed by Attorney General Josh Call and Assistant Attorney General Gabe Johnson Karp, who represented Evers in the case, the attorneys wrote, the First Amendment does not grant unlimited access to governmental events or facilities. Instead, where the government applies selective criteria to determine who may access the event or facility, those access determinations will be upheld as long as they're reasonable and viewpoint neutral. Former Republican Governor Scotty Wanker, who lost to Evers in a re-election bid in 2018. Remember that, Scott?
So he's
I laughed
feeling
all
the
night.
pain twice now.
Filed a brief with the court in October in support. Walker under what grounds? Walker, did you have grounds arguing the federal judge's rulings allow censorship by picking which reporters attend press events?
And also, he's not me.
That was your
Literally
policy,
exactly what you
Walker.
did.
As it's written here, Walker as governor did not invite all reporters and writers who cover state government politics to all press events or budget briefings. I know I was excluded. Hell, someone came in on Martin Luther King Jr. to withdraw my credentials to cover the State of the State address.
How petty is that?
They had issued credentials, then they came in to withdraw the credentials. And hence Walker Bash was born, at least as a hashtag on social media. We made a trend that night during his speech when we did a Mystery Science Theater 3000 commentary. Those were good times.
What a great time.
MacGyver sued Evers in 2019 after being left off its media events, including a budget briefing with reporters. It argued the governor violated the think tank's right to free speech and equal access by not notifying it about Evers' public appearances. The courts did not find that. We find that the governor's media access criteria are indeed reasonable and not an effort to suppress MacIver's expression because of its viewpoint. Well, anyways, you lose. Suck it, Wanker. Suck it, MacIver. I mean, really.
But they used his own precedent to go and smite his own stupid idea.
One more from the courts. We cannot fathom the chaos that might ensue if every gubernatorial press event had to be open to every qualified journalist. And they're definitely using air quotes with you, Kittle, with only the most narrowly drawn restrictions on who might be excluded. And no one needs would be served if the government were required to allow access to everyone or no one at all. Right? So if MacGyver can't be there, then no one should be there, according to MacGyver. Walker, the wanker, and his attorneys argued that in the case of press conferences and limited access press events like the budget briefing, where certain reporters are invited to attend, the relevant speakers are government actors, not journalists in attendance.
Great.
Then why didn't you ever do open call press conferences, wanker? And when I did insert myself in a couple of press conferences, when they'd say, okay, 2 more questions, I'd jump in. I'd ask a question loudly in front of the press, the assembled. They were forced to answer or at least acknowledge that I had asked the question. And then they usually ended the press conference immediately. So there would be no follow-up questions. And I only got like 4 cracks at Walker in his 8 years of terms. I'd have to go follow him out. I followed him to the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce one time because when he did public events, I wasn't invited to the East Wing.
Mike, what a cowardly human being.
Wanker.
What a just never, ever.
That's his best quality.
Never faces anybody, never has to sit there and take any sort of information from anybody. If you talk to him directly to him and ask him a direct question,
you can't
about this
talk directly
specifically,
to him.
You can't. He'll turn it around or
It's
change
one of
it.
those
He
things
can't
where
even tell you his favorite Bible quote or something. He can't even tell you what he's even thinking without going and hemming and hawing around what he's actually thinking.
you can't look the man in the eye because he's like Marty Feldman.
Oh, that's true too.
He's got the Marty Feldman eyes. 844-967-2789. Dick in the garage. Welcome back, Dick. Heard some Walker bashing, did you?
Oh, I'm on board with that. First of all, thanks so much for Scot Ross. I love the guy to death. He was spot on with Walker when he ran. And the other thing, the guy who comes up with the word crapulence, you gotta love him.
That is a hell of a word. I don't know if it's a real word, but Scott Ross uses it so well.
It should be, and it fits. But anyway, also to Walker, he was totally right, Scott Ross. I remember listening on your show when he was running against Evers, and he said that Foxconn would be an albatross around his neck, and he was perfectly spot on. That isn't why I called, though.
What'd you call?
Another man who wallows in his crapulence. Rand Paul. This guy is the hypocrite of the year. I wake up this morning and I see him on the Senate floor railing against all kinds of any kind of financial support for hurricane relief, this, that, and the other thing. And then he pens a letter to the president groveling for money for his state when Biden had already done it. I wish his neighbor would have succeeded in, well, I won't go there. This guy is the worst of the worst.
Rand Paul, he's pretty bad. Appreciate your call, Dick. Rand Paul is seeking federal relief for his state, and he's kind of staked his reputation on blocking federal relief for other people's states. And I mean, these were massive, tragic tornadoes. And I love the fact that, we've got right wingers denying climate change all day long on righty whitey talk radio. I heard the denial of the climate change. Temperature goes up by a degree. It's going to be 68 degrees, Wednesday in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
68 degrees. It's warmer here than Vegas and LA. And I realize this could be just a little short-term weather burst, but there's a Antarctic ice glacier, the whole shelf is going to crash into the ocean within 5 years. How are you going to climate deny when the water's above Miami?
The problem with people self-owning so much is that they have to be aware enough to know they're getting owned by themselves.
I'm not clear that they do. There is more news here and more callers at 844-967-2789. Let's get to at least one more. Mark from the SAC. Welcome back. What do you got for us?
Well, there can't be enough Walker bashing. I mean, I just kind of envisioned him that they kind of an old political cartoon where some politician was those old carnival things where you bash the anvil and knock the thing to go up to hit the bell, and this politician was the guy getting the little thing to get you bashed when you.
Oh, that's a bell I'd like to ring in perpetuity. Someday I hope to crash Walker's funeral and somehow sneak up to the stage. Anybody have anything to say? I do. Give a little speech till they haul me out of there.
He's just an odious human being. I mean, and no wonder that woman doesn't want to admit that Scott Walker is her father. I mean, that who would? I mean, except for his feckless sons who now are living probably out of state, sucking up.
No. Mark, you're all wrong. Appreciate your call, buddy. But I believe Alex Walker is the one of the campaign people for Rebecca Clayfish, his former lieutenant governor. So,
that's going really well.
The nut doesn't fall far from the tree, if you know what I'm saying. 844-967-2789. Wisco, Paul, how you been, Paul? Welcome back.
It's always cool to hear Walker bashing. He deserves.
It is a fan favorite, isn't it?
Oh, he's the reason we're in a state of affairs in this state, with the gerrymander. Well, you know what? Hey, this is what I called about. The more you watch the news today, I haven't had time to watch it, but with this deal with Meadows and Trump and lining the National Guard up, which you were a part of, This is from the top all the way down to Gableman. All these people are involved in this, Crudy. They're all involved.
Well,
in treason.
it's an ongoing activity, Paul, because to my opinion, Gableman's investigation is like when they talk about chilling prior restraint. When you make a law that you can't go out there and you can't publicly protest, that's chilling prior restraint. That was the justification Scott Walker used to arrest people at the Wisconsin State Capitol. Well, it was unconstitutional, Paul. But what Gableman is endeavoring to do, and Robin Voss is allowing him to do, is to basically smear good people, to try and arrest people, to put the fear of incarceration in people. And Paul, to what end? Well, hell, if Mark Thompson and Ann Jacobs and hell, even Dean Knutson leave the Wisconsin Elections Commission, do you think the next round of appointees are going to be quite as street fighting? I mean, Mark Thompson's a fine lawyer. Ann Jacobs is a very smart lady. Dean Knutson had served in the assembly. They're all up on felonious charges. They'd arrest them and throw them in jail if they could. Not out of merit, not because they're criminals, but because they gave a little election advice during a pandemic, Paul. And the next election commissioner, they better know better. So we're going to throw their asses in jail. We'll tell you all about it. More Devil's Advocates. Come back with us.
You wouldn't hire me to be a neurosurgeon. You wouldn't hire me to run condos. You wouldn't hire me to run HP. You probably wouldn't hire me to run the United States Senate.
Congratulations. You played yourself. Now go home and get your f***ing shine box.
Having a great time.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
600,000 Wisconsin families are receiving checks to help take care of their kids, thanks to the expanded child tax credit passed by Joe Biden and congressional Democrats. Ron Johnson voted against these checks for Wisconsin families, despite voting for a 2017 tax break that put more money into the pockets of millionaires like himself. It's time to vote Ron Johnson out of office. MoveOn.org political action, paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Spruce up your home with non-toxic vegan candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents that make a perfect holiday gift. Plus, at Wisco Home Goods, we believe in giving back. With our Do Good, Smell Good campaign, a portion of the proceeds go to local charities. So support a Midwestern company that supports our local communities. Order now at wiscohomegoods.com.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. A Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Bankstad and I own the Minocqua Brewing Company. And I also have a super PAC. We make good trouble in the North Woods of Wisconsin. You can support our efforts at the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and buy our Wove gear like t-shirts, hoodies, and trucker hats. Enter the code RADIO and get 10% off on your next purchase. A portion of all sales support the Minocqua Brewing Company Super PAC, which is dark money meant for good. That's the MinocquaBrewingCompany.com.
The Devil's Advocates, political commentary from the back of the class.
Welcome back to a devilish Monday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Still time for your phone calls. Be patient. I see you, Ross, 844-967-2789. But there's this headline I got to get out there for the people. State Senator Kathy Bernier, she's a Republican from Lake Holly, and she leads the Senate Elections Committee. And Bernier was a county clerk in Chippewa County for 12 years. She ran elections, and she's getting awfully sick of the investigation being conducted, investigation air quotes, being conducted by Gableman. Here's a little reporting, Patrick Marley over the Journal Sentinel. Here's what Bernier said. Mr. Gableman is coming to my county, and I will attend that meeting along with my concealed carry permit. She's packing heat fancy, to be perfectly honest, because it keeps jazzing up the people who think they know what they're talking about, and they don't. This is a Republican talking. We talked about the fact she was a county clerk and ran elections for 12. That's like 3 presidential terms. And so I think my advice would be to have Mr. Gableman wrap up sooner rather than later, because the longer we keep this up, the more harm we're going to do for Republicans. In response, Assembly Speaker Robin Vos of Rochester issued a statement saying it was Democrats who are preventing Gableman from completing his work sooner. He did not note that much of Monday's criticism came from Republicans and offered no timeline when Gableman would finish his review. The easiest way to wrap up the special counsel Gableman's investigation is to get the Democrats to cooperate, Boss Voss said in a statement. Instead, invoking McCarthyism has been their only motive, trying to discredit the investigation rather than finding ways to improve the system and prevent fraud going forward. Although you offer no proof of fraud, Robin, you keep making assertions, but you offer no proof. Hence your lack of credibility on the topic. Hence the criticism even from Senator Kathy Bernier. Yes, Fancy.
Yeah. What's the over under on when Kathy Bernier is going to resign now?
I'm not sure,
because that's pretty much the MO is I criticize the thing and then that Republican resigns.
Got to go home and spend more time with family.
Also, where has she been? Oh, now you're going to come in and tell us, oh, maybe this is getting a little out of hand. Oh, my goodness. And 3, finally, Robin Vos, your investigation discredits itself. Like, all you got to do is let it own yourself.
Bernier made her comments during a panel discussion in the state capitol. She was joined by Ben Ginsburg, who spent nearly 4 decades representing Republicans in election disputes, and Bob Bauer, who served as White House counsel during Barack Obama's presidency. Ginsburg agreed with Bernier's assessment, saying attacks on the election will hurt Republicans in the long run because their voters will be less likely to cast ballots if they think elections are rigged. I disagree. It is actually more motivating, apparently, to Republicans, and they don't believe it was stolen. They just don't want to believe that they picked the wrong guy. We are here today because Wisconsin has found itself really in the middle of a harmful and disturbing national trend that involves the intimidation of election officials, the people who are supposed to call the balls and strikes in our elections. That's according to Ginsburg. Again, he was the Republican guy. And we all know Gableman's burning taxpayer money, like he's in the MC Hammer entourage. 844-967-2789. Yes, sir.
I'm just going to make this one point. Kathy Bernier has a decade of experience running elections, and they need to go in and do an investigation on elections. Who do they turn to? The guy who literally says, I am not completely sure how elections work. I'm just throwing that out there, man.
Here's how this article actually ends. I'll bring it to conclusion. Bernier said during the panel discussion, again at the Senate Elections Committee, that she would attend Gableman's event, but afterwards said she wasn't sure whether she would. One more quote from the senator, Republican Kathy Bernier. I know I'm not going to learn anything more than I currently know, and then I'll end up with the people who want to yell at me. So that's really probably not a good place for me to be. This is after she threatened to pack heat. I mean, we could have a stand your ground thing going on. Go, Kathy, go.
How can you tell who's the good guy and who's not?
844-967-2789. Ross is the good guy because he's listening to the Devil's Advocates. Welcome, Ross. What do you got for us?
Hey, Goody. Of course, I got to throw my hypocrisy stones at the Republican Party, and particularly Wuss Walker and this MacGyver Institute. If they really cared about the freedom of the press, they would be telling Gableman to sort of shut his yap and do his investigation if he wants to question the mayors of some of these cities out in the open. But you don't hear anything about Gableman doing this in secret.
Well, Ross, they don't actually want. There's nothing to be learned. All the information being sought is public record. So really, all they're trying to do is smear the mayor of Madison, the mayor of Green Bay, and all the Wisconsin elections commissioners, but you get that, Ross.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I don't even know, like, who listens to the MacGyver Institute? I mean, I could see Wuss Walker, you know, I mean, like, maybe on some of the righty-whitey radio, like over there in the Waukesha area or something, like, maybe people care about Walker. But I mean, the MacGyver Institute, like who cares if these guys lose their little case?
Don't kid yourself, Ross. The MacGyver Institute currently has a messaging campaign on WISN, and I feel like they have one on WIBA. So effectively, every day we hear a 1-minute message from the MacGyver Institute on the two biggest, at least in the major metros here in Madison and Milwaukee. The MacGyver Institute has daily messaging on right-wing talk radio. Wish the Dems would do something like that. 844-967-2789. Don't remind me. Jeannie from Eau Claire, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Hey, I got to say, I'm really proud of Kathy Bernier. I got to say it. I just called her office. See, I had called before on this situation, and I talked to the guy that works in her office, real sweet guy. Anyway, he said, hey, she's holding a news conference today, and she's going to have, you know, both sides or whatever. She said she's upset about this, and I thought, wow, my gosh, miracles do happen, because she was not that way when she worked in the county. I mean, she was watching out for the people. So I'm glad to see her finally, you know, do her job and be a real person and care about the people once again. But, you know, I don't want to get my hopes too high, but I was impressed today. So I got to give her, you know, a couple thumbs up, because it's about time somebody got some guts. You know what I mean? And, you know, does the right thing. So hopefully she'll push this forward and stop the nonsense.
Jeannie, that ain't going to happen. The nonsense will continue. Appreciate you listening. Always speaking from the gut and the heart. Thank you to Scot Ross. He was my fine co-devil in the 4:00 hour. Thank you, Scott. Now stick around. Earl Ingram's going to be next on Devil Radio, then Native Roots Radio, then Chaos. No, you know, keep it locked right here. Devil Radio 92.7. Thank you, Fancy Brian, for making the show go. Stick around. My pal Earl's next.
I think people will do what's right. They don't need a government mandate to do that.
We've included a Venn diagram.